In this video, we are creating not one, not three, but two figures. And they are the legendary duo. So here's the schedule for the video. Let's start with figure prep and assembly, and let's look at what do we need. Do pause the video if you like to scrutinize my spelling or grammar. I've received some questions asking me about where I get my heads from. I get the heads from this app called AliExpress, and the brand of the figures is known as Soccerwee. My first impressions of the Ribery head is that it looks like a caricature. It doesn't really look like him, but the Robben has very good resemblance, so we'll see how we fare in this video. So now I'm gonna recycle some bodies for this project. I will be using my wood carving tool to slowly carve out the head, and please exercise precaution when using these wood carving tools. Oh no! And for method 2.
Harry Maguire!
Okay, so let's get back to the video. Now I'm gonna use super glue to glue the head onto the bodies. I usually apply a pressure for 10 to 20 seconds so that the parts are bonded together. And the last part is to remove the hairpins from the Ribery figure, as I'll be sculpting the hair later. And with that, figure prep and assembly is finished. Now let's check what do we have to do next. Now we're gonna start sculpting with epoxy clay, and these are the items that we need. I'm using epoxy sculpt for this project. I like to roll the clay out into little wormy dealies or snakes of clay and apply it onto the figure. I'll use water and a silicone shaping tool, which I can smoothen the neck area, the base, and I'll use it for Ribery's hair later. I'll use a ball of aluminium to bulk out and fill in the gap in Ribery's head. Now I can use clay to cover over the aluminium parts and start sculpting the hair and beard for the Ribery figure. I'm using a needle scoring tool to make little indents onto the clay, and yes, it will take a lot of time and a lot of patience. And this is how it looks after curing overnight. Alrighty, let's get ready for painting. These are the items that I'm using for painting. It's time for priming. And this is how they look after 3 or 4 thin layers of priming. Initially, I used this as a skin tone, but I realized it was a bit too tanned. So I used a lighter mix of beige and white for this skin tone. Now that I'm satisfied with the skin tone, I'll paint some areas white and red to get ready for some decal application. And with that, painting part 1 is done. Now let's get ready for decal application, and these are the items that I use. Well, first I'll slap the surface with some Mr. Mark Softer to make the surface adhesive for future decals to stick onto the figure. So I wanted to print something a little special for these two figures. I searched and found special fonts that Bayern announced during their last match, and I edited the pictures in Procreate and printed them on clear water slide sheets. I'll cut the logos into shapes and place them into water for at least 20 to 30 seconds before peeling the backings off and placing them onto the figure. A tip for you is to use a wet brush to move the decals into position, and once you're satisfied, you can use a tissue or a paper towel to remove the excess moisture and lock the decals in place. Now let's get ready to finish the figures by painting. I'll start off by completing the jersey painting. Do notice my brush. I'm not using a fancy brush, I'm using actually a damaged brush. You don't have to invest a lot of money as long as you know how to work with what you have. Once the jerseys are done, I'm trying to match the boots to the ones they wore for their last match for Bayern Munich. I'll paint the bases with this green, and let's get ready for the facial details. But first, I'll cover up any mistakes or paint runs with the skin tone. Okay, so this is where the magic happens. First, I'll paint the insides of the mouths with a very dark red. It really looks hideous or something out of a horror film at this point, but trust the process. I'll then start painting the lips. I'm using a pink color from Citadel to paint the lower lips. I used a watered down pink to paint the scars on the Ribery's face and the flesh areas for the eyes. Here's another tip for better lips. Blend your pinks with your skin tones to get a smooth transition between the skin and the lips. I use the same mix of paint to paint the shadows of the ears, foreheads, nose, cheeks and eye bags. Next, I'll paint the teeth with a bone color and eventually finish it off with a bit of white. I'll use the same mix of the bone color and white to paint the eyeballs. I'll use black paint to paint the eyeliner and start dotting the pupils. I like to start with small dots and build it up into bigger pupils, if that makes sense. Once I'm satisfied with the size of the pupils, I'll go over the areas that may have some paint runs with the skin tone, and the next step is to detail the pupils. I'll dot a smaller amount of paint, light brown for Robben and a green for Ribery, and I'll finish off the eyes with a smaller black dot. And the eyes are done. Next is to add some illusion of short hair or stubbles. What I like to do is mix blue and skin tone to get a nice 5 o'clock shadow that can be used for the sides of the hair and also the bearded areas. It's a very subtle effect, but I feel it makes a very big difference, especially for Robben. Next is to paint the hair details. I'm going to use brown to draw the number 7 on the side of Ribery's head. I eventually go over it with a darker brown. I'll use the same brown to complete the hair and facial details. And with that, I'm almost done, and let's get ready for the final reveal. Alrighty, let's get ready for the review portion where I critique my own work. For Ribery, I'll give it a 3 out of 5 for difficulty. The sculpting does take some time. For the resemblance and overall look, I'd give it a 4 out of 5. I'm pretty sure that if I show this to a stranger, they can tell that this is Ribery. For Robben, I'd give the difficulty 1.5 out of 5. It did require some molding for the neck and the base. For the resemblance and look, I'll give it a 4.5 each. Before we go, I'd like to share that I'll be making some changes to the channel. I would like to customize other figures like wrestling figures, Pokemon and other figures. Don't worry, I won't be abandoning the football figures. Alright, thank you for watching this video. I would appreciate if you could like my previous video, which is a Cristiano Ronaldo in his Al Nassr kit. If not, please be safe, be responsible, be respectful. Bye.